Hey there, it's Erin from Littles Love Learning, and today I want to help you when your child asks you the question, how do you spell? And then they say the word. So when your little one is first learning how to spell, they know that they don't know how to spell everything, and that can be really frustrating for them because they want to write something, they have the word in their head, but they know that they don't know how to spell that word. What do? A lot of parents think, you know what, I don't want my child to get frustrated, so I'm just going to spell this word for them so that they can write that word and then move on and keep writing. If they are in pre-K or they're in kindergarten, that seems pretty normal, that we want them to not get frustrated and we want them to be able to move on. But let me propose a different solution for you. If your child is asking, how do you spell? It's a really good opportunity for you to determine how they're doing learning their phonics skills. Are they matching the sounds of our language with the letters of our language? You want to see if they have that connection, especially for basic words. So instead of giving your child the correct spelling when they ask, how do you spell? Try this instead. What sounds do you hear in that word? And let's see if they can pull apart the sounds in that word and match those sounds to letters in order to spell the word. So let me show you an example of what I mean. So let's say, for example, your child has just asked you the word dog, and they said, how do you spell dog? You could say, dog. What sounds do you hear in the word dog? Now you want them to be able to pull apart the three sounds in dog. D, G. That's step number one. That's before you do any writing. You want them to be able to pull those sounds apart. So let's say they can pull those sounds apart. Then you would say, okay, D. What letter do we use to spell D? Hopefully, at this stage, they will know that it is the letter D. Then you can continue. Okay, dog. It was D, G, ah. What letter do we use to spell ah? You want them to know that that is the letter O. And then, of course, the last sound, G, D, G, G. That is the letter G. So by slowing them down and asking them, what sounds do you hear? That's really going to help them first with the oral part, pulling apart the sounds orally, and then matching those sounds to the letters. That's really helpful. But let's say, for example, they want to spell a word and they haven't learned the phonics skills yet. The example I just gave you is very basic. It's a CVC word. It just has consonants and it has a short vowel in it. Those are the first skills that your little ones are going to learn in preschool and kindergarten. But let's say they want to learn or they want to write a more complex word where they haven't learned those phonics skills yet. Let's say they're writing a birthday card and they want to write happy because they're trying to write happy birthday. So they say, how do you spell happy? So you want to slow down before you tell them, and you want to say, what sounds do you hear in happy? You want them to pull those sounds apart. A, P, E, happy. All right, how would we spell happy? Now let's say they spell it this way. They hear the sounds and they match the sounds to the letters. A, E, happy. And they look at you and they say, happy, is that right? You can say to them, I hear all of those sounds too. A, P, E, happy. You got all of the sounds. That is great. Depending on their age and their skill level, that could be enough. But if they are starting to learn traditional writing, you don't want them to think that this is how we spell happy, because it's not. So we don't ever want to model for them the incorrect way of spelling happy. If they are at the point where they're ready to start learning how to correctly spell, you can show them on a separate piece of paper, you know what? You got all the sounds in happy, but let me show you something. The way we spell happy in English looks like this. We have A, P. We actually spell P with two P's in this word. And let me show you something else. In this word, the E sound is spelled with a Y. If they're ready, you could talk about just briefly how Y will spell the E sound at the end of a two-syllable word, like happy. Maybe you could give them a few other examples, like silly or crazy, where we have a Y at the end of a two-syllable word, but it's spelling the E sound. If you have a little 3-year-old, they're not going to be ready for this most likely, but if you have a 5-year-old in kindergarten, you can absolutely start introducing something like this. You're not holding them accountable for it. You're not making them write it correctly every time or knowing that Y spells E at the end of a two-syllable word. They haven't learned that yet, but it's okay to expose them to that. But I don't ever want you to write happy this way, or I don't ever want them to think that happy is spelled this way and have them orthographically map it incorrectly. So I do think it is important for them to pull out the sounds, match those sounds to the letters, and then depending on their age and their skill level, show them and talk to them about the correct way to spell that word. So let's continue with our happy birthday example. So they wanted to write birthday. But let's say they don't know all of the phonics rules yet in birthday, but they can still pull apart the sounds. So they might say b, d, a, birthday. So you can have them, okay, show me how you would write birthday. Pull those sounds apart and show me the letters. So they might say b, d, a, birthday. And you could say, yes, I hear all of those sounds in birthday too. Birthday. But let me show you something, and then you can show them. B, you got that right. They might not have learned the R-controlled vowel, IR, representing It looks like they did know the TH in my example, but that's great if they do. And then D, they got. And then you can show them, absolutely, you heard A at the end of that word, but we spell A a few different ways. And in this word, it's A-Y. Again, it doesn't have to be a whole long drawn out phonics lesson to spell A with A-Y. You're just briefly mentioning to them depending on their level. And again, depending on how important it is for them to spell that word correctly. If they are a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, they're writing a birthday card, they're drawing pictures, they're just having fun, they probably don't care. But if they are in kindergarten or first grade and they are trying to learn these words, we don't want them to be a perfectionist where they can't write unless they know how to spell it correctly. But we don't want to teach them the incorrect spelling either. We don't want them to orthographically map it incorrectly. I feel like it's a fine line. It's a balance between having them phonetically spell it and pull apart those sounds and then being able to help them with conventional spelling. Again, depending on their age and their skill level. And just to add more nuance to this, I'm not saying that you would have your child erase the way they wrote happy birthday and rewrite it correctly. But I am saying you can model for them how to write it correctly. So once they've written it on their birthday card and you've talked about it, oh, actually we spell it this way and here's why. You're showing them how it's written correctly, but you can do that on a different piece of paper. You don't have to have them erase and correct their spelling on their birthday card or their writing that they've written. But I just want them to be able to see the correct spelling so that they can start orthographically mapping that into their brains. But don't think that they need to erase that writing or every single time they make a spelling mistake that they have to erase it and correct it. But if you are writing something for them to read, you absolutely want it to be written correctly because you never want to model incorrect spelling. It's okay to talk about the phonics behind it, but you wouldn't want to be the one to write it incorrectly and have them read it that way. So it's definitely a nuanced topic. I think it's a fine line, but I think it's something that we can work towards as parents with our little ones. So I hope that information was helpful. If you're going to take anything away from this video, I just want you to take those phrases away. When your child says, "How do you spell?" I want you to really use that phrase, what sounds do you hear in that word? Start there. Start with the sounds, the oral sounds first. And then I want you to ask them, what letters represent those sounds? How would we spell spell that based on the sounds. I want them to start tying the letters with the sounds. So if you have any questions about this, go ahead and comment down below, or you can send me an email over at my website, littleslovelearning.com. I'd love to chat with you more about this so I can hear your ideas. I could give you more support if you have questions. Other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day.